Tonight we're going to talk about cooling tower, HRVOCs, and the sample systems that we are using to do them. All right. Where's my black? There's my black. So, HRVOC again stands for highly reactive, volatile, organic, carbons or compounds, yes. What makes them highly versus just a normal VOC? Huh? What makes them highly reactive versus just a volatile organic carbon? Because of their enes. They end in ene. They end in ene. So if we are in the alkane family, we're saturated, happy, and everything's fine and dandy in our world, and we don't have any double bonds. If we end in ene, then we are extremely pissed off, and we want to get rid of that double bond, such as ethylene, propylene, isobutylene, on and on. Acetylene being a triple bond expressed as super bad and wants to blow up. So that is the difference between highly reactive volatile organic carbons and just organic carbons. Methane, ethane, propane, butane, pentane. How many of you can count to 10 now? Okay. Everybody needs to be able to count to 10. Methane, ethane, propane, butane, pentane, hexane, ethane, octane, nonane, decane. Now, that being said, the TCEQ, which stands for Texas Commission. Yes, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. That's another one of those ones that we're saying we're going to learn all these different, what are they called? Anonyms. Yes, those. Yes. So that being said, to get the sample for a cooling tower, we need to catch the water before it actually makes it out of the cooling tower pipe, because any hydrocarbons that are in the water immediately jump out of the water as soon as they have the ability to. When we have the pipe, they're forced to be mixed with the water. All right? And I'm going to explain to you how the hydrocarbons get in the water in 1 second here. But what we're doing is we have a sample probe stabbed off into a 36-inch line. Most all cooling tower lines and plants are pretty freaking huge, pretty massive. And we're going to stab that down into the middle of the pipe, and then we're going to pull the water out. Sometimes we have to have a pump. It's just not, it doesn't have enough pressure, or it doesn't like it. So sometimes we have to have a pump. Other times, this thing, we angle a probe like with water flowing that way, and you have that angle on it, and it forces it up and in and goes through. And if we have plenty of head pressure, and you don't have to have a pump. But in some cases, we will have to have a pump down here pushing it through. And then this is our Swirl Clean filter. In its name itself, it explains what it does. It is a self-cleaning filter. So what is going to happen is we're going to have push water in. It's going to swirl inside and then go back out and then head over back to the cooling tower. We're going to put screens on two sides inside of there, so water's coming in and swirling around and going back out, and then we're going to push the water through these screens, and that's the filtered water that will come out on two pieces of tubing, because it's coming out both sides, and then it's going to go through a little, you can have a little mag meter to control a little valve, because you need constant water flow. It can't be too high of a water flow, and it can't be too low of a water flow. If we don't have a high enough water flow, then our readings are skewed low. If we have too much of a water flow, our readings can get skewed high, because it's built on constants in this sample system. This sample system needs a constant flow of water, and it needs a constant flow of sparge gas. And this will make sense in just a little bit here when we start showing it to you. So we're going to have water flowing through this guy. And we were talking the other day about microns. And that's how we measure for our filters. And how big is a micron? Say it louder. ml. 0.001 millimeters. Tiny, 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 tiny. And we said that this one is a 50 micron. 50 micron, you can basically see through it. You can definitely see light through it and stuff like that. A 7 micron looks like a thimble. You can't see through it, it'll hold water. Literally, it'll hold water. But gas can make it through it. No problem. Water? No. It'll eventually drain through there. You just let it sit, you know, sit. It'll eventually go through it. But the cool thing about the swirl cleans is, let me show you an example here. Cool thing about the swirl cleans is one thing I want you to notice on this when we'll get it apart. If you start having, and you're lazy like I am, if you start not having enough water flow coming through your swirl clean right here, and you don't feel like taking it all apart and putting new filters in it, there's always a valve right here, and you can start pinching that off, and it'll put more pressure on the water and force it through your filters. Of course, you eventually, like the next day, need to come back and change out your filters, but it'll get you by for one day. That being said, take a look at our swirl clean, and it'll make a little bit more sense now that we're expressing it the way we are. So we have two sides, and then you have your in and your out, and then on each one of these, this is an out for the water that's going to be coming off of this filtered side, and this is an out for water coming off this filtered side. This does not go in here. I don't know who put this in here. This does not go in here at all. Completely the wrong filter. But in essence, water swirls around in this cat. You push it through these guys, and it's filtered, and then it goes out that direction. Somebody took off with a little 50 micron screen there, but I'll track it down later. So that being said on that part, to see them, this is what they would look like live in living color. This is what a little mag meter looks like. This is a magnetic flow meter, reading the water flow going over to the sample system, which is sending a constant water flow over to our analyzer's sample system. They put two of these right here for your backup. So if you need to come up here, this is supposed to have water flow continuously. You're not supposed to like take it down. So you'll come up and you have three-way valves. So our three-way valve is aimed to this swirl clean over here. If you need to come up and change these guys out, you're going to come up and grab these valves, flip them all the way over, and there you have a piece of tubing coming in the middle of it. That's your common. And then you either choose the right-hand side or the left-hand side, right-hand side or the left-hand side. So that's what we're going to do is we're going to send it back over to this guy on this side and go through this swirl clean, and then you can see how the tubing comes out, connects up, and then goes. And then they meet up, and you choose whether you're on this one or on this one with this valve right here. And that's your actual filtered water that's going to be heading up and going through your mag meter. So these are your actual swirl cleans in line and doing everything with our water flow coming in and going back out. Mag meter reading it, little baby control valve controlling it. Takes 1.8 liters per hour is what we have to have. That is it in living color. The TCEQ, we just explained that. They came along through Texas and they said, everybody on the Gulf Coast area, you are going to monitor for any emissions coming out of your cooling tower, and you will also monitor your flares and make sure that all of your flares measure every component coming out of them. So basically you have to add up to 100, but they give you a little window, 97 to 103. You can be off and be in there. If you get below 97, you get above 103, you're screwed up. You should be at 100. What are you doing wrong? It's not right. Go fix it. Okay, so you should always theoretically just add up to 100 on your flare, and you have to maintain a BTU value above 300. BTU stands for British Thermal Unit. That is your heating value. your heating value, if it gets too low on a flare, like literally you can spit stuff through there and it won't incinerate because it came through there too fast without getting incinerated. And it's just going out into the air. We don't want that. We need everything to incinerate. So you have to do additional fuel gas to keep the BTU level above 300 BTUs. Okay? Okay. This is a typical heat exchanger that you'll see out in the plant. Purpose of a heat exchanger is pretty self-explanatory. We're going to exchange heat. If we have something hot coming in, we're going to cool it down. In that case, we got a vapor coming off of the top of a column. We have just boiled everything in that column, and we're going to have our lights come out the top of the column with who being the light one on our hydrocarbons? Methane. So let's just say methane's coming out the top, and methane's going to come over, and we're going to bring methane in as a gas, and it's going to come down into here, and it's going to be going through and then coming out. But what we're going to do is we're going to send cooling tower water in here through these tubes, and then back out, and then you can see it split in the middle. So we're going to bring that cooling water in, bring it back through. It's a U-tube heat exchanger. U-tube heat exchanger. So bringing that in, you got all these individual tubes, bringing cooling tower water, cold water in, and then it's still going to be pretty cool water, but heading back to the cooling tower to get cooled back off to down lower temperature. And this guy's going to come in, that's our gas, and then by the time it makes it back out of here, it should be a liquid. We're going to cool it down. We're going to cool methane down, maybe cool it down. No, we're not going to cool methane down low enough to make it a liquid, but in most cases, though, when we're bringing something in, we're going to knock the crud out of it, mark the temperature down, and then we're going to bring it back out. And that is a heat exchanger, typical. The heat exchanger will pop holes in the tubes after a while, okay? Because you got process, you got water, you got it continually flowing. After a while, somebody is going to corrode and decide that they want to start popping holes inside of there. And once you start getting these little pinholes in these bundles, you're either going to have process going into the cooling tower water, or you're going to have cooling tower water going into the process. Either way, it's not good. Either way, it's not good at all. But most of the time, you got way more pressure on your process than you do your cooling tower water, and it's going to be hydrocarbons jumping out into your cooling tower water. And that's why they say you have to measure for HRVOCs out of your cooling tower water. What happens is once you start seeing something along those lines, once we start seeing readings, the first thing that happens is the operators are going to say, bullshit, there's no pinholes in anything, no, make it go away, make that, quit reading that. I don't want to see that, I don't know. No, because they start yelling at us whenever, environmental people get involved, they start getting reports, they're like, hey, we're seeing this, so they send the analyzer technician over there, the analyzer goes, the guy goes up there, he says, okay, it runs a validation every morning, and it hits spot on every morning. So it checks itself. It runs a cow gas every morning and it validates itself and it says, hey, I'm great. So then you have to go through all this rigmarole to prove to them that, hey, there's stuff in the cooling tower water. And then they're like, crud. Because then you got to go find it. You have to start going through all these different heat exchangers out in the units to try to find which one it is. Now let me show you a typical unit. So what we got, you got your cooling tower with those huge fans right over here. 3 big huge fans running on our cooling tower. We got our cooling tower water pumps sucking out of the swimming pool that remains on the bottom of this guy. And by the way, it is a swimming pool down there. They go down in the ground. They're not just flat. There's a pool underneath these guys. We keep a constant water level in there and all that. We're constantly adding water to it. You don't realize how much water you're losing out of a cooling tower until you drive past one in the middle of winter. And you see just, and you're losing a ton of water. Water's expensive, by the way. Water costs money. Especially, water costs money. And you got to treat it and everything like that. So just sidebar, I told you that these pipes are this big around. They're made out of metal, carbon steel. What is the one thing you have to make sure of in this water to protect that pipe? pH. pH. You let something happen here and you get that pH down to a 4 for a little while, and it just eats 36-inch piping to death. You know how expensive it would be? One thing, the whole place would be down, because this is cooling tower water coming off these pumps, shooting out into the unit, and they're going to come in on the heat exchangers and then be hot water coming back out. So that's what you're seeing is the blues are cooling tower water going out, and these are all heat exchangers out in a unit. Heat exchangers, like I just showed you, out in a unit. And you're going to feed all of them the cold water, and then it's going to come back hot water, dump in at the very top. This is way up there where it's dumping in like a waterfall. And that would be disastrous for a plant, because massive amount of money to change out all that piping. Plus you're down, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, and this still goes on and on. So you have to go to each, you got to figure out which one of these is leaking, and then you got to pull the bundle, and then you get the welders over there with their little fire watches and all that stuff. You ever hung out with welders? They're a different breed. So, yeah. And then they weld back up those bundles and get them all nice and stuff. And then some boiler makers that take apart all the bolts and everything to pull. They're a different breed too. So, yeah. So the heat exchangers, we got to take care of the water. We got to make sure that we're good, and we got to pick up whenever we do have a leak, and that is the purpose of what we're looking at here. Now I'm going to show you two different things on that scenario. So that El Paso stripper, I will show you a video of that one in a second here, and this is a Siemens Sparger. Bless you, my child.
Thank you.
Ooh, that'll be a good one. Yeah. All right, so what's going to happen is you're going to bring in that cooling tower water, and we're going to feed it into this Sparger, and it's going to fill up, and it's going to overflow, and this tube comes down into here, down to here, and it's only about that far off the bottom. This is very expensive crack pipe, is what this is. Super wicked expensive. So that glass comes over and goes way down in here, and it's an overflow of water coming in, falling over, and then it comes out, and then comes back over and comes out here. Whenever you want to check to make sure you're getting the right water flow, you will do a beaker test here, and you will do a stopwatch, and you will say, okay, it took this long to get this many milliliters, and that's how you check to make sure that you are having the correct water flow coming into your Sparger. Now, we're going to send gas. And in this case, they really shouldn't use it, but they use helium on this. They're using helium. It's just a waste to me, because helium is not forever. We're going to use it up and then come. But anyway, helium is coming in, and we're going to sparge the water. And all these things do, it looks like a fish rock in an aquarium. And it just makes bubbles. And the bubbles help bust out any hydrocarbons that are in the water and make them get out of the water, and they come up here to the top. This is water overflowing and coming over to here, and then our gases will come out the top and then head over to our analyzer. They're going to wind up, it goes through a filters and stuff like that, but it winds up coming over here to an RMAX, where it's going to choose process or low, mid, or high gas. And that's what those are for your RMAX, choosing what is going to be going to the analyzer. Now, that being said, if you get too much pressure going up to this way, you will see a bubble come back down and come through here just every now and then. Boop. Every now and then. Boop. You get a little bubble. I think I have prettier pictures. There's a pretty one. Pretty. And there you see our glassware. Our glassware going down deep inside. And there you see the bubble, just about the bubble. Just about the bubble. And we're nice and sparging, bubbles going crazy. Yes. Now the El Paso stripper. She is a different one. Same concept. Constant water flow, constant sparge gas, everybody coming out the top, heading over. This This is the drawing for the Siemens one. You're going to have a backup. It's the same concept though. If you have a lead and a lag, you're going to choose this side or choose that side. You got your glassware, and you just decide which side you're going to go on, because then you need to clean one side, you use the other side. Same thing with the swirl cleans that we just got through looking at. Let's take a look. If we go into desktop again, and then we're going to go to Big Boy, and then we're going to go to videos, and then our El Paso. Okay. Let's see. All right, I don't know if I've explained this quite a bit, but you have to have a constant water flow. And in this case, you're going to have a constant water flow. CCM stands for? Cubic centimeters, and then cubic centimeter. It's going to be sparging. LPH. Liters per hour. Liters per hour. Everybody needs to spit this stuff out whenever I say it. And right now we're just going to fist fight and try to keep it set. That's going to feed in a constant amount of water. What's a scuff? In there, there's our water. And we're sparging this with air, our bubbles. SCFH. Alright, so it's going to overflow right here. Standard cubic feet per hour. So that's our overflow, so we're set. Your top is your pressure. Here comes our water. Coming into our El Paso stripper. She's filled up with saddles. I will go get some saddles right now while this video runs. But in the event that we overpressure the sample system, it will push the wet leg out of there, up, around, back over here, and the wet leg will disappear. At this point in time, our wet leg is situated right about, oh, there it is right there. See it? There's the wet leg right there. Alright, so we're full, but in the event if we overpressure that, it would blow all of the pressure out or wet leg out, and we would be done with that. Hey, y'all take some saddles home with you. Alright. Those are saddles. Saddles are designed to help bust up the hydrocarbons to get them out of the water and moving over. Along with the saddles being in there, we're sparging it with air and busting the air. The air is coming up through here, and we're using air as our sparge gas on this one. I like using air much better than anything else. The only problem with instrument air in a plant is that it always has methane in it because of the compressor, instrument air compressor. And it just, it's going to get some methane from the burning oil and stuff like that. These have to be pulled and cleaned and certified that everything is hunky-dory on them, and they have to do that quite a bit, but most plants, they don't follow the rules, and they don't pull them. And they're supposed to be on a routine schedule, and you're supposed to do that, but I know plants that haven't pulled them ever. Fresco. Yeah. Yeah, the one down Oyster Creek, these things are just solid mud, goop, and everything else. Like, do I want to deal with that? No. That being that one. Let me see if there's anything different on this one. This is the bottles. So you're going to have a low, mid, and a high gas bottle. You run your mid every day as a validation. You run the 3 quarterly to check your low, mid, high. And it's like a CTA that you're running. It's an audit that you're clicking on it. So you have your tally acids, low, mid, high coming in. Back up just a bit. What does that guy down at the bottom right? Yeah. They're boots. DOS boots.
What's the part of the different size world? What I use there, no, it's small.
They make them all different sizes, but they all accomplish the same thing. Just take up space, but give plenty of room in between them for stuff to flow and move and, go. Yes. So that good one, that's a good one. Let's see if it's the same thing. Yeah, that's the same thing.
Explain this quite a bit, but
So I'm going to delete you because you're a duplicate. Next thing we need to know about these is you are looking at ppm levels on the HRVOC. So when you look for ppm levels, you're using a FID, flame ionization detector. You can't do this, you can't really do this on a TCD, thermal conductivity detector. It just, the levels are it's too low. FIDs are super wicked sensitive, and we'll go into FIDs later down the road, but FIDs read ppm level spot on, day in, day out, over and over and over again, and they just repeat and look beautiful. Okay, that being said, swirl cleans are the ones that we see on these cooling towers a lot, but they also make, what were the other ones that I said are just like the swirl clean? Genies and Tornado. Wow. You just pulled that out of nowhere. Oh, okay. You cheated. You got those. Okay. Yeah, okay. I was impressed for a second there. Never mind. That's good. Swirl Clean, Genie, Tornado. Swirl Clean, Genie, Tornado, they all are the same concept. Remember them. Remember them. Good, good, good. Awesome. Okay. That being said, that handles that part of this morning, or today's little thing. Now we get to go play.